15 minutes. Hell yeah, I've got 15 minutes. If this particular thought made you press play, then I'm so glad it did. But still, I do want to make sure that you are here with your full presence, because in today's episode, we are going to do things a little different. Yes, it's not about fixing yourself, pushing harder, or having it all figured out. It's about possibility, real possibility. That kind that exists even when things feel unclear, messy, or unfinished. We're exploring what it actually means when we say anything is possible. Not as a motivational phrase, for that one I've got other episodes in my podcast, but as a lived experience. How we close doors without noticing, and how certainty can quietly limit us, and what becomes available when we allow ourselves to stay open a little longer. Whether you're in a phase of change, transition, or simply questioning what's next, this conversation is an invitation to pause, to listen, and let something new land inside of you. I'm really glad you're here. Welcome to the Who I Am podcast for a strong mind, balance, and bold moves. My name is Jackie. Let's begin. Let me start with something simple. Anything is possible sounds nice. It also sounds unrealistic, maybe even irritating, especially if you've tried, failed, waited, hoped, and watched things not work out. So let's not pretend this is a slogan, okay? Let's talk about what it actually means. Because anything is possible doesn't mean everything will happen. It means the story isn't finished yet. Most limitations don't come from reality. They come from repetition, from doing the same thing with the same thinking in the same environment, and then mistaking familiarity for truth. At some point, we start confusing what has happened so far with what is possible in general. And that's where the door is quietly closing. To make this more clear, let me tell you a short story. A story about a young boy who loves going to the circus. And so one day, again, he is there to see a show with his uncle. And what the boy loves the most about the circus is the elephant. He's big, he's powerful, and yet he's so artistic. So he watches the show and he's just fascinated by this strong and beautiful animal. Now, after the show, he catches a slight peek to the back of the tent, and he sees how the artists are tying this huge, beautiful elephant to a thin rope. And that rope is being tied to a fairly small wooden pole. And there the elephant stays. But the boy is confused. He's turning to his uncle and asking, "Uncle, why is that elephant so big and so powerful, just standing there tied to the rope?" He looks massive. He looks strong. He looks like that rope couldn't hold him back from freeing himself and go walk along this wide open field of grass that is right next to the area of the circus, instead of just staying caged in this really fairly small space the elephant has there. And so the uncle, subtly surprised by the thought of the boy, looks at his nephew and says, "You know, when I was little, I still remember the elephant from back then. He was young. And even back then, he was tied to the rope, and the rope was tied to the pole. I remember day by day, he tried to free himself of the rope. But the elephant was small. He was not strong enough. He couldn't make it. And after a while, he tried less often and less often until one day I saw him being tied to the rope, and the rope was tied to the pole. And he just stood there, not trying anymore." Now the boy looks at his uncle, still slightly confused. "But uncle, the elephant is huge. I'm sure he must be strong enough to free himself from the rope, no?" And so the uncle says, "You know, I guess he tried and tried. And as he never made it, at some point, he stopped believing he ever could." And that's where the door quietly closes. And based on this little story, you can see that the elephant didn't stop trying because the door was locked, but because he stopped checking if it's still open. Think about how often you tell yourself, "That's just how I am. That's not for people like me. I missed my window. It's too late to change direction." None of those are facts. They are conclusions, and conclusions, they're comfortable. They give the nervous system certainty, and even if that certainty is limiting, it still feels comfortable. Possibility, on the other hand, is uncomfortable because it requires that we don't know it yet. And most of us, we weren't taught how to be with not knowing without panicking or shrinking. But here's something important. The moment you truly accept that anything is possible, you also have to accept that your current situation is not final and that you might not know where you're headed yet. Just like the elephant that didn't know he would become bigger, that didn't know he would become so strong that a tiny rope would not be able to stop him. Yes, admitting that anything is possible can feel destabilizing because if change is possible, then that may come with responsibility. It may come with choice. It may come with movement. And suddenly the familiar story, even if it's painful, it sometimes feels safer than the unknown. And that's why people don't resist possibility because it's unrealistic. They resist it because it asks something of them. But here's the grounded truth. Possibility doesn't require you believe. It only requires for you to be open, to be available, to keep checking on the door. And you don't even need to be convinced that the door will open yet. You just need to keep checking. Anything is possible when you allow your future to surprise you. Trust me, there are no guarantees before we even take the first step. So can you accept that clarity will often come after the movement, not before? Knowing that this kind of openness will provide you with opportunities, with that kind of possibility that you thought is closed for you. Most breakthroughs don't happen in these dramatic moments. They happen quietly through a conversation that you almost didn't have, or a decision that you postponed for months, or a version of you that simply showed up before you felt ready. And that's how possibility works. It doesn't announce itself, it doesn't open the curtains and yell, hey, here I am. It responds to openness. And don't get me wrong, openness is not the same as being optimistic and super positive all the time, although it does not hurt to be positive. So if you think that you need to go through your day smiling like a sunshine all day, this is not about it. It's about not deciding too early. Because if you do, then you're closing and locking the door yourself. Instead, ask yourself, what if this will work out? What happens if I don't rule it out yet? Instead of, what if I fail? Ask yourself, what if this teaches me something I couldn't access otherwise? Because the truth is, your life has already proven this to you. There were moments you once couldn't imagine surviving, or you couldn't imagine doing certain things, but you did. There were paths that you never planned, but you created them. And there were versions of you that didn't exist and you didn't see them. You didn't even know they existed. And now they're real. It's you. And that alone is evidence enough. So anything is possible really is about staying in motion and staying curious, being receptive, letting life meet you halfway. Possibility is patient, but we also need to be. It waits for the moment that you stop saying, this is all there is, and start inviting, let's see what happens next. And honestly, sometimes that's enough. Thank you so much for being here, for being open enough to listen to something that may improve your life. I hope this gave you new perspective, new insight. I send you all my love and light, and I will be waiting here for you when you hit play again. One more thing before you head off. If you have any questions or you would like to get in touch, learn more and grow more, check out my website whoiam-official.com or send me a message at healwithjackie. You can find me on Instagram. I would absolutely love to get to know you and work with you. So, see you there.